Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Jerry from Bigelow Woodcraft, and today I want to talk about all the different modifications and things around the mill that I do to make this a lot easier. I've never listed off all my modifications. If you've been following my channel, you know I have quite a few modifications. And so this morning I came up with 9 modifications and 3 things that I built that make my job much easier. I'm going to list off all the things I've done to my mill and show them to you as we list them off without the machine running. Then while I'm running the machine cutting this, I'd like you to take a look at it. So the very first thing I think to help make this better, a better flow out here, are my log decks. And let me show you the log deck. My log deck consists of just 2 sawhorses made out of white oak. They're very beefy. They're 12 by 6, or are they 10 by 6? I'm somewhere around there. They're pretty big, you can see. There's the other one. I keep them on this side now. I have bridge over here and a bridge over there, those 4x4s to roll the log on. Number 2 are these 2 roller conveyors, worth their weight in gold. This one is my slabs. Now I have them both. I used to have both of them straight out, and it was too much turning and then squaring it up. So I put them on angles so my slabs roll off that way and my lumber rolls off this way. I found these on Marketplace. I built a frame for them and sat them on it. The third thing I built to make my life easier at the sawmill is a band sharpener. And my band sharpener consists of a Foley chainsaw sharpener, windshield wiper motor off of a old pickup truck, like a 1999 pickup, Chevy pickup. Then I have also a 2-setter on it. The next thing I want to talk about are the modifications I've made to this mill. And they're not really in particular order, but the first few are probably some of the ones I think are really important. And then they will progress to get more difficult, these builds. But the log stops. These log stops look like, let me show you. They're going to look like this. Just a hunk of iron with the top cut off. And supposedly the cant is supposed to slide down that. Some people stick a piece of PVC over it, but to do that, you have to pull the log away from it to slide the PVC over. I didn't like that option. I tried it. Didn't work out good for me. Let me show you my solution. I put roller bearings on them. These work fantastic. So now when the log sits on this, and I want you to watch for this, they roll right off. If you have one of these mills, you know sometimes that log will sit on this and it'll push it down. And now you have to start all over. So not only did I put these on, these roller bearings, a little stiff, but it rolls fine. I also marked them 4, 6, 8, 10. Hopefully you can see that. That gives me just a quick glance. And once a year I paint them red. You can kind of see the red, red, and red, just so I have a quick visual. But I also occasionally mark them 4, 6, 8, and 10. Another thing I did on these log stops, so that's put the bearings on, marked them. I put these grinds in here. Maybe I can get out of the way here. A grind here, a grind here, a grind here, and a grind here. Those correspond with the thumb screw. And let me show you what I mean here. If you're going to do one modification to these log stops, I'd probably do this right here. I'd put these grooves in here. Here's how I did. I lined these up with a line. I took this thumb screw out and I put a transfer punch in there and I transferred a mark onto this corner. So now then I took it out and hit it with just a grinder. And now, look at that, it's a positive stop. Log sits down on that. It's not going to push that down. So let me loosen it up. I'm going to put these at 8 for this log anyhow today. Look at that. It's locked in there. And then not yet. So I'm going to put this down to 8. And that's locked in. I don't even have to wrench on this tight. Let's get the other one set up. I have it at 8. See how easy that is? And that thumb screw finds its way right into the center. Wish I would have done this right from the beginning. There's several ways to do this modification. These are the track sweepers Norwood sends you, or Frontier. And this structure here is all open to the rail. So the idea behind these are to sweep it off, okay? As this goes. You soak these in like transmission fluid and it picks up all the dust. The problem is the dust falls in between these two pieces of steel and goes all the way down to this rail. Now, if you look closely, I have a piece of wood in here. And I have one on that side and I have one in the rear. Let me show you. These are the track sweepers here, front and back on both sides. Like I said, the sawdust would fall through here down onto the track. Another thing I did is I also have a little piece of oak on these in the back side, and it helps push it off, scrape it off before it gets to my track sweepers. Underneath these track sweepers, I have a piece of gasket material like stove gasket. And in fact, actually, that's what it is. It's a 1/2-inch stove gasket. I put a slot down there. I drilled some holes up here so I can introduce oil. I soaked the, I attached those to the bottom with an epoxy. Then I soaked them in transmission fluid. And occasionally I'll shoot some transmission fluid through the holes. It's hard to see the holes. And that keeps my rails completely clean. Now I've seen guys put tape over them, etc. to keep the stuff from debris from falling in there. I used a piece of wood and I let this slide front and back the entire length, and my rails are nice and clean after every cut. Disregard this. This is not a modification for the sawmill. It's a modification for my lathe that I put on here. If you haven't checked that build out, check it out. It is a hot day today. All right, the next one, the 6th thing I've done, you're going to change that valve out. This valve they give you is not a good valve. It's just a plastic valve. I don't even know what I did with it. Maybe it's in the toolbox here. It's not. I think it's in a box of all the extras. That valve they give you, every time you turn it, the whole thing turns. Next thing you know, it started leaking. So I just put this little needle valve on. It works good. One of these days, I'll put another valve. I might do like some of you guys are doing. Put a valve here. And then keep this on and use this, because mine it did start loosening up. Occasionally I reach my hand in there and I tighten that nut up on the back side. So it's just a nut. You go to a hardware store and get all that little pieces. I don't know if you see anything special about my bunks, but let me point it out to you. It's this right here. Now maybe they come standard now, but they didn't when I bought my mill. They didn't come with these stainless log caps, and they're very expensive to buy them on Frontier. So guess what I did? I scrapped an old stainless refrigerator, cut out the pieces, bent them, screwed them in. I put some double face tape down so they're perfectly tight down to the log bunk, and then I screwed them down. That way I knew they were flat. I have all the bunks done except the one down on that end. But I don't know if it's actually stainless. I believe it is some sort of stainless, and they got a coating on it. But let me show you. This one does have a little rust. So stainless will rust, but what these are really good for, this is good for your oaks. You put an oak on these bunks without these caps and you're starting to wear off the powder coating, or it's rusted off, you will leave black streaks and marks all over your oak. Oak's very acidic. It picks that up, that iron up really, really quickly. In fact, it will be black. Here's the one I didn't get it on. Only reason this doesn't have it, I just flat out ran out. This is my movable bunk. I suggest having these, and I'll talk about those in just a second. Number 8 is this tensioning handle. It doesn't come with a nut on it. I welded a nut on it, and what size is it if I could read it? 3/4 inch nut, and now I use a torque wrench. If you follow my channel, I've been breaking a lot of blades, Ripper 37s. Not sure why. So I put this on a couple months ago. It seems to be helping a little bit, but I'm still breaking some. But the manual says 4.5 to 5 turns. And that's exactly what I used to do with the Norwood Sabertooth bands. No problem. 5 turns, 5.5. I think maybe it was 5 to 5.5 turns. Whatever it is, I'm not even close to that now. When I went to 5 turns, I was at 20 plus foot-pounds, and I was snapping them left and right. So now I've lowered it down to 17.5 foot-pounds. And this is how I get it tensioned up where I know I'm getting close. Then I just use this. I was using a bar type, but now I have brought out one of these clickers. Right there. And I find it's very consistent. It's usually in that position on these 144-inch blades for me. Let me give you a close-up of that. Now, what that problem is, though, you'll hit that. So if I'm going to hit it, I just back it up just a little bit, just so it will clear. There we go. We're good to go. And that's the torque wrench I'm using. If you buy a mill without the track extensions, like I did, you can cut, I believe, about 11 feet, a little over 11 feet. That's problematic if you need to cut some longer timbers. I had to cut a couple 18-foot logs. Maybe they're around 16. Anyhow, before I had my extensions on. You do that once or twice, you're going to start thinking about extensions. I built my own extensions, sourced out the iron, the steel. This is 3 inches by such and such. I can't remember the height, but it matches the Frontier. I got the same size. I had to have a shop put it on their CNC and cut a nice straight line down it. And so that was the case. And then I sourced out all these bunks. That was a piece of steel, tube steel, and then just set it on the bandsaw and cut it. So now I can cut 19 plus feet now. Big difference. It really helps. This is a 16-foot log. I'm still 1.5 feet from, I'm closer to maybe 1.5 feet to 2 feet from the head of the carriage. And I still have a little bit, you can cut to about here, wherever the blade would stop. The wheels hit this, so right around about here will be the length of it. So it's 18, 19 feet. These next couple modifications does take some know-how. If you want to build them, I do have a playlist on them. And you just saw my carriage go up, an automatic carriage feed. I've had torn bicep tendon. I've had several rotator cuff tears. I've had AC separations, and I've had dislocated shoulder. That got a little hard for me after a while. Not necessarily hard, but by the end of the day, I knew I was having problems and my shoulder would lock up. So I wanted to fix that. So I put an up-down feed on that thing. And let me show you a little closer look at it. We'll just start with the panel. I have a 24-volt system here. So I only have a 12-volt battery. So I'm running these motors, these wheelchair motors, at 24 volts. And this is my 24-volt converter. I believe it's 24 volt and 40 amps. So my up-down, many people, Woodland Mills and a few others, I believe Norwood, they're bigger mills, they put a motor on the crank handle. Well, if you remember, you have cables in here. And those cables are consumables. So I thought I'd try it a little differently than just swinging this around. So I went with screws. Now, I thought about doing this as soon as I got the mill using screws. If you ever follow Delco Dave, he built his sawmill and he used screws as well. So I went with 1-inch stainless steel, 4-pitch. So every time it goes around once, it's 1/4 of an inch. In case I thought maybe that'd be nice for some sort of system that would keep measurements for me. You know, one time around it was 1/4 inch, so I thought maybe that would help. But let's show you how it works. Yeah, I know I have these backwards. Just the switch is upside down. But let's go down so you see what happens. Okay, it goes down a lot faster than it goes up, obviously. But that gives you a look what's happening in there. We have some of these bronze bushings back in there, and I can adjust the height just by twisting these screws, and it will lower that down. Let's see if they can see that. There, right there. Those 4 screws and nuts, I loosen them up, and I can lower this whole thing up or down, just like you would if you had the cables. Very similar. All right, let's bring it back up. See how many amps is drawn today. 13, 14 amps going up. We want to clear this log. I want to show you the power feed next. I'll give you a good look at this. Okay. That's my cutting speed, approximately that pace, guys. And I can control the speed. Ooh, I'm not high enough. So we can come through the cut. All right, so we're all done with the cut. I'm going to bring it back. Let me give you a good look at it before we move it. There's the power feed. I have 2 limit switches. I find these limit switches are pretty important. And I'm going to show you how I use them here in a second. And I come down to this chain. Tie it into this right here, into the tail light system. I also believe this is important. One, it gives me adjustment. I can tighten this. But it allows, when you first take that mill off, if you were to hit a log fast, this is your buffer. That won't allow it to just slam in there and break it. So that's a buffer. You can watch this. You can see it does that. Show you the control panel here real quick. Now, I'm using a pulse width modulator in here. I got the idea for using this from Mike Festiva. Forward, back. This is my speed percentage. 100%, bringing it back. And I usually cut around 23, 24, somewhere right around there. Let's show this thing in operation from this direction. And you will see it work. All right, so I'm going to move forward at cutting speed. That just gives you an idea. So you see the limit switches there. So when I come back now, I want you to watch. That's an electric craft motor. I don't know the model numbers on them. Sorry, guys. There is nothing on that plate. But watch my limit switch here. That is wired up for normally closed in series. And same thing there. The reason I like that is my mill doesn't have to come all the way home. I like to work down the mill a little ways anyhow. The last and final thing, so let's lower this down so I can show you. So we're going to lower. The final thing, do you see it? Sorry about the sun blasting you out. Let me get off to the side here. Number 12, 12th thing I've done to make my life easier, I put this on. Here's a linear actuator. Can you see that cable going back there? That just takes the place of the cable that used to live there. I can still run the throttle by hand. That doesn't change anything. Oh, I only even put this on there just so it wouldn't return all the way to idle because it always stalled there, even when I adjusted the idle up. So anyhow, I stop it there. And idle's great right there. And I use this linear actuator. So let's show you that. These linear actuators have limit switches in them. So let's throttle up. You'll hear it, and then I'll show it to you. Throttle down. Okay. Those are the 12 items I put together or built to make my life easier out here at the sawmill. Quick recap: roller tables, log deck, bandsaw sharpener, bunks, track extensions, up-down power feed, log stops, power feed, carriage power feed across the mill, water valve change out, and throttle. I think I mentioned everything. Oh, and don't forget the nut on the T-handle. Those are the 12 items. I don't know if I'm going to get to milling this today. It's very hot out here. My camera keeps shutting off, and I have to go watch my grandson. My wife has to leave, so I got to go watch him. She's picking up the other grandson. So if that's it, guys, I don't see you back out here. Take care. We'll see you at the mill next time. Raylan, say hi. Hi, crew. What are you guys playing, Raylan? What are you playing with?
Cars.
Cars?
Yes. The police car, the football.
Police car?
That's the wheel.